is Lamar Jackson. Recently, he talked to Rich Eisen, I believe. It was Rich Eisen, and he said that defenses are calling out their plays and stuff like that, and they've been knowing what they're doing on offense. And I just want to know your thoughts on that. And what do you feel like is in the future for the Ravens now that defenses are kind of figuring their offense out?
Well, the one thing that really caught my eye looking into this topic was Greg Roman, who we talked about. He said this is nothing new. It's happened to his offenses before. It doesn't concern him, and that's fine. What really concerned me about what Greg Roman said is he said some quarterbacks audible or have the freedom to audible every play. Sometimes that works out well for them. Sometimes it doesn't. Some people don't do it at all. I would say we're somewhere in between there. And to me, that just does not at all, exude any confidence in Lamar Jackson in that statement. And maybe I'm
in terms of reading pre-snap
it.
reads and stuff, yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too far into that, but to me, that is almost saying like we don't have confidence in Lamar Jackson to control the offense.
But you think about it, Lamar Jackson basically saying that defenses know our stuff is kind of taking a shot at Greg Roman.
You could say that. I mean, the thing is, like we talked about this in the last season MVP conversation when we talked. I think that was 2 episodes ago when we were talking about if Lamar Jackson deserved the MVP in 2018.
He didn't.
Yeah, we had that argument. And, I mentioned how Lamar Jackson adds a new element to that Greg Roman offense. But as much as it does that, it can kind of become predictable if they keep running it because the offense is a lot of RPO, a lot of designed quarterback runs, and it's predicated on the quarterback being able to run, which
I think
after a season and a half becomes fairly predictable.
I just want to read a quote from the Steelers game from the linebacker Highsmith. I knew when that play started they were coming back to that because they ran the same play in the first half and I didn't drop deep enough. So I learned from that play it just dropped deeper. The ball just fell into my hands.
That's bad.
From what I got from this, it's just the offense has become predictable. And I think from what you said, Greg Roman, after saying what he said, I think this is more showing us the limitations of Lamar Jackson's game and the fact that the offense has been predictable because he has limitations in passing the ball and being a pocket passer. And I think the limitations are affecting their playbook because he hasn't gotten better. So the playbook can't get better with him and his limitations. That's what I took from this.
This is one of the rare instances that I'm gonna take both sides here. One, from this quote, I could see that there's kind of division between Greg Roman and Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson kind of took a shot at Greg Roman by saying, people know our stuff, it's simplistic. And Greg Roman took a shot by saying, well, yeah, you're supposed to audible if you see it's not there. You're supposed to make those type of decisions. That's your job as a quarterback. So obviously there's some division there. But I want to defend Lamar Jackson. I think he has gotten better, but the wide receivers, he doesn't have a good receiving core. I'll be honest. Yeah. He doesn't have a good receiving core to even show that he can be that good of a passer and show off his arm because these receivers aren't that great. I mean, it's Hollywood Brown's their best receiver. Willie Snead's their second best, and I think they're like neck and neck in terms of how good they are. And there's this good quote that Brett Coleman tweeted. I don't know if you guys ever heard about him. He does film analysis on YouTube. But he tweeted Bruce Lee's quote, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. And that's the Ravens offense. Yes, it's predictable, but they've mastered that.
Yeah.
At some point, it just comes down to execution.
Yeah, and as much as we talk about it being predictable and stuff like that, they still have the best rushing offense in the league. And Bill Belichick even... I wish that I had written it down, but he had some quotes talking about the Ravens offense. Like, they're still an elite offense, and Lamar Jackson is still incredibly difficult to stop. And he said specifically, this isn't an exact quote, but it's very similar to what he said. Even if they might not be ending in touchdowns, you go back and you watch their last 3 games. You watch the game against Pittsburgh. he's ripping off 20-yard runs almost every possession. That is incredibly hard to stop. And you look at his passing numbers, he had a ridiculous season last year statistically. So we look at his numbers this year, 1,500 passing yards, 12 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, 63% completion rate, and 469 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. And we look at that as a down year, but realistically, those numbers are not that bad. It's just that the bar is set so high for him. So if your offense being predictable is 6-2 and those numbers out of your quarterback, it's pretty darn good.
But
it is, but I think because at some point you got to look at it, and if you're gonna have to get past the Steelers eventually, you're gonna have to get past the Chiefs eventually. I don't think with this repetitive offense you're gonna be able to do that.
Well, you have to execute, but back to your point, I mean, yeah, but when the bar is that high, you have to reach that bar. You have to consistently perform at that bar for people to continue to respect you the way they once respected you. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, last year he had 24 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That was a down year. People said he was washed. This is a guy who threw 2 interceptions in 16 games. That's a career year for some guys, but that's the bar for Aaron Rodgers, and Lamar winning the MVP in his second year. That's where the bar is for him now. The Ravens are still averaging 170 yards rushing. Yeah. They're still putting up 28 points per game. They're still scoring. They still have one of the better offenses in the NFL. So at some point, I think it comes down to execution when they play those better teams.
Yeah, and we also got to take into consideration they've had injuries on that line, and like you mentioned, they also have been missing Mark Ingram. They don't have the receivers that
Marshall
they
Yonder
should
retired.
have. Yeah, and I have a follow-up question almost. Do we think that 23-year-old Lamar Jackson has no room for growth as a quarterback? Because that's what it seems. And I get it. We are holding him to this standard coming off an MVP season. But when I see people talking about Kyler Murray versus Lamar Jackson, who would you rather have for the future? And people are saying Kyler Murray, and it's not even close. I ask where that comes from, because they're both 23 years old, and we saw Lamar Jackson have a season last year that Kyler hasn't even touched. So where is the basis behind people saying stuff like that? You know, I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah, I think if you watch
but
them
I
both
feel
play,
like Lamar Jackson is almost having what's happening to Giannis happen to him. The expectations were so high, and the growth hasn't come yet. But you got to look at it and see, you know, he's so young. He has room for growth, and I feel like it's problematic the way we've been judging him this season.
You know what I think it is to compare to basketball? I think the Cardinals' offense is more Golden State. It's new. It's fresh. It's spread. It's spread offense, right? It's air raid offense.
Cliff Kingsbury.
When you look at the Ravens, it's more Spurs-esque. A boring style of play, constantly running the ball. People rather like to watch spread and air raid. They'd rather watch that.
And it's the new shiny thing on the scene. Kyler Murray, you know, he's been getting better, and he's having a season this year. A lot of people talked about him as an MVP candidate. I get it, but at the same time, I feel like we got to cut the Ravens some slack here, because even in a year that, and it keeps reminding me of Giannis, because when we talk about the Bucks, everybody was on Giannis's case about what happened this year. They were one of the best teams in the league. So as much as people say, yes, but as much as people say he's so easy to stop, he can't shoot the ball, then how come he averaged almost a triple-double in the playoffs, was averaging 25 points a game? If he was that easy to stop, teams would be doing it. Just like Lamar Jackson, if he was that easy to stop, teams would be doing it. They still have one of the best rushing offenses and offenses in general in the league. It just comes down to, can he close out games from behind? And that is what he needs to work on. But at 23 years old, I'm willing to bet under a great coaching staff in Baltimore that has proven that they can win and develop talent, I'm willing to bet and stake a claim to the fact that he will improve as a passer.
I'll take that bet with you.
I think he'll improve, but I also think it's alarming that he takes a lot of hits.
Oh, yeah, and that's been my biggest problem with him since college, and it's been my problem with Josh Allen, too, that he's kind of gotten much better with this season. Josh Allen has, not as much as Lamar has, but when you're a rushing quarterback, you're no longer under the same protection that you are in the pocket as a quarterback. So you're going to take hits that a normal pocket passer is not going to take. And it adds up. It adds up. And that's been my biggest concern. Is he going to be able to last in the league for a decade taking hits like that? Look at what happened to Antonio Brown. One big hit, and he's seemingly never been the same since that Vontaze Burfict hit.
I thought you were going to say like RG3.
Yo, I really thought that's what's going to come out.
That's just the one hit that I think of as like one play.
I just thought you was going to throw a quarterback at us. You threw a receiver.
You could say RG3, but you look at a guy like Antonio Brown that was playing at, and he was the best receiver in football. He took that hit, and from there it was all downhill.
Yeah, but I think...
I thought you would have said maybe Teddy Bridgewater.
I think AB went downhill because of... He's just acting crazy. Like, I think Lamar's downfall would be if he were to get hurt rather than go crazy.
I personally, and again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't say this with any reasonable evidence to back it up, but I think that the injury and the head trauma that he faced from that Vontaze Burfict hit led to some of his actions following it.
Absolutely.
So, it just goes to show you that one play
started acting real weird after that.
Because before that, you remember, he was highly regarded as one of the hardest workers in the league, one of the best teammates, and then it was like a flip switch right after that happened.
Yeah.
So, I'm not a doctor.
I think there were still stories about him, though.
Not like
before.
Not like OD,
nothing
though.
Like what you
he
heard.
Started acting real crazy.
Maybe it was just coincidental, but...
Remember when he got caught with that white lady in front of his house?
Yeah.
He was on some weird shit.
So, that is, again, my biggest concern. I would bet on him improving as a passer if he can survive in the league for a decade.
Hey, what's up, guys? You just finished watching a clip of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran.
My name is Jack Barteck.
And my name is River Brown.
And we are your hosts for this podcast. We want to thank you guys for watching the clip. Like, subscribe, and comment, and share if you would care to, because it helps us grow. We're trying to make this a full-time thing. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting, and see you next time.